Surah Adh Dhariyat, which is the 51st surah of the Quran. A lot of times Muslims, generally we Muslims, we know some of the more famous surahs, probably ones from the beginning, and then ones at the very end, right, the shorter ones, and then some of the ones that are famous for recitation, like Surah Yasin and Surah Ar-Rahman and things like that. But a lot of the surahs in the Quran are relatively not as well known, so we don't really get a chance to get introduced to them in an easy kind of way, right? So this is an opportunity for you to maybe learn something about a surah that you may not have heard much about or wouldn't know as much about, okay? So this was given to the Prophet ﷺ when he was still in Mecca, right? And the surahs that were given to the Prophet in Mecca have different focus. And one of the areas of focus is that some surahs were focused on talking to the people that didn't believe that anything will happen after we die. Or they had an idea something will happen, but they didn't agree with what the Quran was saying will happen. They had their own version of what's going to happen after we die, of resurrection, right? So there were lots and lots of different religions and philosophies in Mecca at the time. There were people that didn't believe in any resurrection. وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ مَا هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ. That's also a Meccan attitude. Some people said this is the only life we ever have and time will kill us, and that's the end of it. That's what they believed. And Quran even recorded their belief system. It says this is what they say, right? Others did not believe that there's going to be a resurrection. Others also believe that there are people that are saints or angels that are very close to God, to Allah. So when they do die, that God's going to ask those angels, what should I do with this guy? What should I do with this one? What should I do with that one? And then that person, that secondary angel, whoever that is, that's going to decide what's going to happen with you and me. So long as we're good with them, they're going to put in a good word for us. So we don't have to deal with Allah. We don't have to deal with God. We just have to deal with these angels. And that's kind of one of the rationales behind the idol worship, because the idols represented those who can be shufa'a'una 'inda Allah. They can be the ones that put in a good word for us with Allah, right? So we don't have to deal with Allah so directly. But Quran came and challenged that and said you have to deal with Allah directly. He's speaking to you directly. You have to worship Him directly. You're answerable to Him directly. And these that you are calling on and thinking that they're going to help you on Judgment Day, right? They're going to disappear on Judgment Day, you know? So there are surahs that describe and break these concepts one at a time. What Surah Adh Dhariyat does is it's focused on people that didn't actually think that there's something, there's a reality to resurrection. Like they think it's far-fetched. I mean, fine, I believe in a God, but I don't think anything's going to happen after we die, right? And whatever justice there is, it's happening here. Or if there's a God, He created this universe and He did a pretty good job, but then He's busy with something else. Why would He care about whether I'm doing drugs or drinking alcohol, or why would He care if I cursed or if I yelled at my mom? So what Allah does in the surah is He starts off by using the example of blowing winds, as an argument for why someone who believes in Allah, believes in God, should believe in resurrection. Now you would think, what would wind have to do with resurrection? They seem like unrelated things, right? So He says, and by the way, they begin with oaths. I swear by وَالذَّارِيَاتِ فَالْحَامِلَاتِ فَالْجَارِيَاتِ فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ. So very briefly, He says, I swear by the winds that carry lots of dust. So winds that blow a lot of dust would be dhariyat, okay? And they do so like a desert winds that blow a lot of sand into the air, right? So that's the image. Then He says, فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا. And these winds are so strong, not only are they picking up dust, they are carrying burdens with them too. And these burdens is an imagery in Arabic for clouds. So these winds are so strong, closer to the earth, there's dust blowing, but up in the sky, the clouds are in motion because of the same winds. They're pushing and propelling the clouds to a certain land. Then He says, فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا. Then they start moving slowly. The winds slow down and then they ease up. So what Allah is describing is you are provided for from the sky as you know it. And you need it. And it's actually a mercy of Allah that He decides where this rain shall fall and where it won't fall, right? On a side note, I told you this surah is not about the winds. What's it about? About resurrection, right? About resurrection. And about why should we believe that Judgment Day is going to happen the way this man is describing it, this man Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, on a side note, when Allah describes an image, He's talking about that image, but He's also talking about something behind that image that you and I should be contemplating. If Allah decides where rain falls and where every drop falls, why is it such a problem for you to accept that Allah decided where the revelation from that same sky that He owns, that He brings rain from, that revelation should come upon a particular human being? Why not this one? Why not that one? Because the Quraysh also said, لَوْلَا نُزِلَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى رَجُلٍ مِنَ الْقَرْيَتَيْنِ عَظِيمٍ. How come this Qur'an didn't come down to one of the big millionaires in town? We have two cities that are filled with governors, millionaires, celebrities. They're already influencers. If they had become prophets, it would have been easy because they already have a following. So they just post one thing about their new revelation, and everybody would have been like, "Yay, sign me up!" They would have got lots of likes. He's relatively unknown. It's a pretty bad idea to choose an unknown man to be a prophet when you have so many celebrities that could do a much better job. That's one of their complaints. And what is this subtle image describing? Allah decides where to bring His rizq, every drop. And the same way, Allah is the one. You don't decide where the rain's going to fall. You'll never control where the rain's going to fall, where the clouds are going to stop. You can't control it. But Allah will decide where the rain will fall. Allah will decide where the revelation will come. But then there's a shift in the surah. And it seems like it's totally unrelated. And then what happens is Allah starts talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam when he was very old. He says, has the news of the guests of Ibrahim who were honored ever come to you? Anybody ever tell you about the guests of Ibrahim, the honored ones, the noble ones? Ibrahim alayhi salam lived in a small village. There's no castles or palaces in his village. It's a remote area. He knows everybody in the village. And all of a sudden, dignitaries show up at his house, dressed like mukrameen, right? So the angels are honored by Allah. That's one implication. But mukrameen can also mean they look like they were royals. They're dressed in royal garb. And they knock on his door, and he opens the door, and he sees these people, and they say salam, and he says salam, and he says, peace on you, but I don't know you guys. Qawmun munkarun, people unknown to me, right? Some scholars say that he said this in his heart. He didn't say it out loud, which is possible. It's also quite possible, peace unto you, but do I know you? It could be like that too. Qawmun munkarun. And then he invited them in, and because he's old, right? It's not easy for an old person to prepare for, and an old man and a woman to prepare for guests, especially uninvited guests. He didn't make them feel like they're being a burden. And he went and he slaughtered an animal, and they cooked, and they put the meal in front of them. This is the story, right? And I'll fast forward the story because this is supposed to be a synopsis, but the point is they wouldn't eat the food. And he's a little bit worried now because when they don't eat the food, that could mean that there's something wrong with these people. It could also mean there's something wrong with their intentions. Because back in the day, people that came to kill you in your home, it was part of their assassin's creed that they wouldn't kill you in your home. They wouldn't eat your food if they're going to kill you. So now he's kind of worried. Are these assassins? Are they going to kill me? And he felt a level of fear from them. They noticed his fear and said, "La takhaf, no, don't be scared." They gave him good news of a boy he's going to have who's going to grow up to be very knowledgeable. Her wife slapped her face and jumped out at them and said, "Ajuzun aqim, an old woman that has never given birth?" Like she just screamed out at them in shock. She was quiet, cooking in the back. When she heard this, she aqbalat. So they tell her, no, this is the command of Allah. Ibrahim alayhi salam says, "No way, Allah didn't just send 3 angels over here to tell me about a boy. He has other ways of informing me of that. They're here for something more." And it's as if Allah wants me to know what else they're here for. So he asked them, "Ma khatbukum ayyuhal mursalun?" What are you really here for? What's your actual mission, messengers? Or they say, "Well, actually, inna ursilna ila qawmin mujrimin linursila alayhim hijaratan min tin." We are actually sent to a criminal people so we can descend upon them pebbles made of clay, meaning a firestorm, a storm from the sky, a meteor shower from the sky of stones, musawwamatan 'inda rabbika lil musrifin, that's been branded. Every bullet has been branded for the people that's going to strike, for those who excess. This is the nation of Lut. I won't go further, but I'll just tell you one thing. We started talking about this surah. What were we talking about? The winds, Judgment Day, how there's a system in the sky that brings about life and brings about death. And then all of a sudden, Ibrahim alayhi salam and a barbecue, and what's going on? If you contemplate this a little bit, you'll appreciate something really beautiful. These angels came from the sky, and they came to deliver 2 messages, one of life and one of death. They came to deliver the message that Ibrahim alayhi salam is going to have a child. That is a message of what? Of life. And they also brought with them a mission of death for the people of Lut alayhi salam. This is actually a continuation, a manifestation of the same system, the same procedure Allah has put in place. What He does with the winds, He can bring life, He can bring death. What does He do with the angels? He will bring life, He will bring death. What does He bring through revelation? He will bring life through this revelation. He can bring about destruction through this revelation. It's part of the same system. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. It's really, really incredible how the argument is, postulated in the surah. This is not the end of the surah. There's a couple more passages, but I'll end with like one ayah towards the end. It's one of my favorite ayat in the surah. Allah describes Himself. He says, "Inna Allaha huwa ar-razzaqu dhul quwwatil mateen." It is Allah, in fact. He is the provider. And He is the possessor of extensive power. He described Himself in 2 ways. He's the provider and the possessor of extensive power. 2 attributes of Allah. Again, profoundly beautiful. Because when Allah brings life from the wind, and when Allah brought life into the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that was His role as Ar-Razzaq.
But when Allah takes those same winds and destroys towns, and when Allah takes those same angels and destroys the people of Lut, that is Allah being Dhul Quwwatil Mateen. So Allah mentions two of His names that summarize what's been going on earlier on in this surah. And it's like a succinct summary of so much of what has been said in just a simple phrase, in just a simple ayah, subhanAllah. So these are just some observations about this really, really beautiful surah. It's not a long surah, and if you haven't memorized it, you should take up the task of memorizing it. You'll really enjoy it. It's a very rhythmic, very beautiful surah, and its lessons and the way it binds together all of its lessons is really quite something. So I pray Allah gives us more and more appreciation of the Quran and helps us see its beauty, its logic, and make us think the way and make us see the world the way Allah wants us to see it through His word.